Donald Trump has practically disappeared from public view. Aside from a few grainy golf course photos, he's been nowhere to be found. And if he can't face the press, it's as if he's gone entirely. Instead, he's retreating to Truth Social, where he just dropped a surprising health-related post that makes this scandal even harder to ignore. At the same time, he's been lashing out at Democratic governors, but the attacks are backfiring. Case in point, Governor J.B. Pritzker, who just demonstrated what real leadership looks like in contrast to Trump's glaring weakness.
You know, he wakes up in the morning and whatever whim strikes him is what he apparently says. And recently, I guess I've been living rent-free in his head. Chicago apparently is living rent-free in his head, even though on other days he'll talk about Baltimore, he'll talk about New York. Notice he never talks about where the most violent crime is occurring, which is in red states. Illinois is not even in the bottom half of states in terms of violent crime. But do you hear him talking about Florida, where he is now from? No, you don't hear him talking about that, or Texas. Their violent crime rates are much worse in other places, and we're very proud of the work that we've done, and we want more help. You know what kind of help we want? Civilian law enforcement help. We would like ATF agents to help us take more guns off the streets. We would like FBI, again, to coordinate with our local law enforcement to help catch perpetrators of crimes. If they would do that, we would welcome that, but that's not what they're planning to do.
This is all part of Donald Trump's playbook. The exaggerated crime claims, the fear tactics, the stage theatrics. Even when they feed into a bigger authoritarian agenda, at the end of the day, they're still just stunts. Trump knows he's vulnerable, so he hides behind performances. Marching with D.C. police? A stunt. Ranting about crime in Chicago, where crime is actually at historic lows. Another stunt. All of it is an attempt to cover up the truth. His health is slipping so noticeably that he couldn't even manage a simple walk with Governor Wes Moore in the very city he tried to smear. And as Moore highlighted, that weakness is now out in the open, right before Trump made his startling post.
If the President of the United States were to have a serious conversation with me and say, what can we do, particularly when you look at the cost of the National Guard of well over $1 million a day, what could we actually do? Do you know what I would tell him? I would tell him things like, we need to make sure we're increasing funding for local law enforcement, and we have to invest in our community groups and community organizations. Like, that's a serious approach, how to address this issue. But asking me to deploy my National Guard, people who are not trained for municipal policing, is just not a serious approach.
But I want to go back to Mayor Bowser again. She said it has been successful. Why would you say, wait, I want you to ask me this way instead of that way? Why fight with the president instead of having that chance if that is an opportunity that can improve crime?
Well, no, and I have no interest in fighting with the president, but I have an interest in fighting for my communities and fighting for our people. And I respect Mayor Bowser, and I'm glad that the trend that she has seen over these past few weeks has continued the downward trend that D.C. has seen over the past year. That's wonderful. The idea of introducing the National Guard into every major American city, it is not sustainable, particularly when you're looking at the cost.
It was expert trolling by Wes Moore to call Donald Trump out and say, hey man, if you can't walk, we'll give you a golf cart. But either way, come to Maryland. Come to Baltimore. Come to the city that you say is falling apart, is in complete distress, that everything is oh so terrible because Donald Trump doesn't actually care. This isn't about crime. If it was, he wouldn't have pardoned 1,500 cop beating insurrectionists who have reoffended. By the way, it wasn't the hysterical libs freaking out when we said these people who committed violent acts were dangerous criminals. They continue to be. They've acted that way. And does Donald Trump care? Of course not. All he cares about is the perception, if he's perceived as strong, which is why he put out this ridiculous bleed about his health. Donald Trump made a post on Truth Social. Responding to this, Joe Biden would go multiple days at a time without any public appearances, and the media would say he's sharp and on top of his game. Meanwhile, he's wearing diapers and napping. Trump responded, never felt better in my life. Also, D.C. is a crime-free zone. President DJT. Let's be clear about what's happening here. Donald Trump knows people are seeing him for what he really is, weak, slipping, and desperate to look strong. The only way he can feel tough is by pretending he's running Washington with an iron fist. He brags that people are terrified, that his wealthy friends feel safer. But none of it's real. It's all just performance. This is a man clearly struggling, slurring through sentences, weighed down by his own habits. And yet we're expected to believe he's the picture of health? Please, it's a cover-up. Trump won't face the press, and instead we get stage health updates from Ronnie Jackson, a former White House doctor whose credibility has been shredded, claiming Trump is perfectly fine and might live another 200,000 years. And when reporters ask about Trump's actual physician, his team just shrugs it off. That's not transparency, that's hiding the truth. Think about it. We're hearing more details about Trump's condition from conspiracy peddlers like Alex Jones than from the White House itself. And the wild part is, some of what's being said lines up with what we can all see with our own eyes. This is why pressure matters. Every time Trump tries to cover up, the cracks show even more. That's why we need to keep pressing, not only on his declining health, but also on the Epstein files. Congressman Ro Khanna had a lot to say about that, and we're going to dig into it right here.
Well, Congressman, staying on this issue of transparency, let's talk about the dispute related to the files of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Congress left town early without voting on your bipartisan bill, which would basically call for the release of all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein. Do you think when Congress is back, the bill will go to the floor and it will pass?
I'm very confident it will. I spoke to Congressman Massey. You had us both on a few weeks ago. We will have the petition live on September 2nd. We have all 212 Democrats committed to signing it. He has 12 Republicans. Only 6 of them have to sign it. What will be explosive is the September 3rd press conference that both of us are having with 10 Epstein victims, many who have never spoken out before. They're going to be on the steps of the Capitol. They will be telling their story, and they will be saying clearly to the American public that they want the release of the Epstein files for full closure on this matter.
All right. Well, we will track that very closely. A couple more topics to get through here, Congressman. President Trump announced this week the government will purchase a 10% stake in Intel. That's, of course, one of the world's largest chip makers. It's headquartered right in your district. You actually co-chaired Bernie Sanders' 2020 campaign. Now, as you know, Senator Sanders has pushed legislation that would require companies taking taxpayer subsidies to give some of that profit back to the people. Here is what Senator Sanders said back in 2022, and then what President Trump said just this week. Look.
If private companies are going to benefit from generous taxpayer subsidies, the financial gains made by these companies must be shared with the American people, not just wealthy shareholders.
I'd like you to give 10% of Intel to the United States of America. Not to me, to the United States of America.
So, Congressman, do you support President Trump's push for the government to have a stake in Intel?
I have no problem with the American taxpayers being reluctant shareholders in Intel. We did this when I was in the Obama administration with the auto bailout. FDR did that when he industrialized the nation. So I agree with Bernie Sanders. Here's my problem with the Intel deal. And I helped co-write the CHIPS Act, which gave the funding. Right now, we're talking about $8 billion. If you talk to anyone in my district, they will tell you that the real need is $40 billion of investment. So how are we getting other investment into Intel? Second, they need Apple, they need AMD, and they need NVIDIA to actually buy the chips. What is the plan to do that? And third, we should make sure that if we are going to be a shareholder, we have labor neutrality and help workers. So those would be the 3 actual concrete items I'd like to see from the administration.
All right, well, let's talk about the Democratic Party now. California Governor Gavin Newsom is warning this week that President Trump might not leave office when his term is up in 2028. Look.
You think he's joking about 2028? You think when he brings foreign leaders to the Oval Office and he goes to the White House store, have you seen this? Anyone? Is it just me? And he shows them the 2028 hats? He's not being serious? Wake up. you will lose your country.
Congressman, is that overstated, or do you agree with Governor Newsom that you predict President Trump will try to stay in office?
I fully expect we will have 2028 elections. This country has overcome the Civil War. We defeated tyranny. We defeated communism. We overcame Jim Crow. It is a resilient country. I am confident that we will have elections. I'm confident the Democrats will win. I'm confident we will have a better economic vision after this failed economic administration. And so Democrats need to express a confidence of what we're going to do in 2026 and 2028 to take back our country.
This is the issue we need to keep front and center, the Epstein files. With Congress back in session, Representative Ro Khanna is turning up the pressure, and you can be sure independent outlets like this one will continue keeping the spotlight on it. If you want to support that work, hit subscribe, drop a like, and if you made it this far, leave a blue heart in the comments.